Hi everyone, it's Ardith. I'm here today with my card for this week's Muse Card Club. This is a weekly inspiration challenge where members vote for the winner. We'd love it if you played along. You can find the inspiration card from Anita on the challenge and on my blog. I was inspired by Anita's colors, leaves, and stripes, and I created my card with a fun double stamping technique. I started with a white panel and the Pinstripe background stamp from Altenew. I prepped the panel with an anti-static powder bag so that the embossing powder will stick only where it's supposed to. I left the stamp on its packaging and I inked it up with Wow Embossing ink, which is a clear, sticky ink. Once I had the stamp well covered with the ink, I put my panel down on top of the inked surface and rubbed it all over to pick up the ink. I went over it quite a few times to make sure that I picked up all the ink onto my panel. Because I didn't use my MISTI, there was no way to restamp this and get it back in the right place. Next, I carefully picked up the panel, making sure not to smudge the ink at all, and I laid it into my mini MISTI. I pulled out the open leaf branch stamps from Leaf Canopy and I stamped them right over the Pinstripe background, again with Wow Embossing ink. I didn't use my magnets because I didn't want to smudge any of the Pinstripe ink, so I just made sure that the panel was well tucked into the corner of the MISTI. I used silver pearl embossing powder from Wow for this panel. It has a pretty, shimmery finish, and I think it's a nice alternative to plain white embossing powder. I coated the whole panel and tapped off the excess powder before heating it with my heat gun until it was all melted and smooth. To add color to my stripy leaves, I grabbed my Sauna, Mandarin Spice, and Eucalyptus Catherine Pooler inks. These are from the Spa collection, and they are rich fall colors. Because the leaves are quite small, I used my sponge daubers to put ink onto all the leaves. This gives me more control over where the ink will end up. I worked from lightest to darkest, trying to get a good mix of colors on each leaf, and then I went back to the sauna to blend. Then I grabbed the matching dies and I cut the branches out with my die cutting machine. Once I had them cut, I could get a better look at the leaves, and I felt there were places that needed some more orange, so I added a bit more to give the leaves some warmth and interest. For my sentiment, I laid out the branches on my panel to get an idea of how much space I had available. I quickly realized that I didn't have the space to use the bold thank you sentiment in its original form, so I did something that I do a lot. I cut it apart. I know some people are not comfortable with stamp surgery, but I do it all the time. I feel like it gives me flexibility in using my stamps without having to mask and risk having an inking accident if the stamp hasn't been cleaned perfectly. I think the key to performing successful stamp surgery is to cut the words apart with a cut that allows you to clearly see how it goes back together, so that you can use it in its original form if you want to. I stamped the sentiment with some icing on the cake ink from Catherine Pooler Designs, and then I adhered the branches to the panel. I glued the two smaller branches directly to the panel and popped up the larger one with some foam squares for dimension. I added some gold confetti from Pretty Pink Posh, and I glued the whole panel to an Oyster card base. I hope you enjoyed this video. Using a background stamp along with these open leaves was a fun and simple way to create a new look for this stamp set. Shopping links are below and on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.